So I have a new blog post out, and it's written by me, but it's of a Catholic lawyer's article on antinatalism and why it needs to be eradicated. Her name is Laura Hollis, and she's from the U.S. and she wrote an article in the Standard Examiner in May of 2025 about why antinatalism should be eradicated. So the main point that sticks out here is she asks one question in the article. Well, she asks a number of questions, but this one sticks out. Um, she goes, for starters, who defines what suffering is? And she goes on to make this case of like suffering being very subjective and different people can feel differently about different things, which is fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, in this subjective way of looking at suffering, how is it that she can say something like, there is less war, less suffering, less hunger, less misery, and modern humans have achieved that and more, and few of those living centuries ago could have foreseen it. So if suffering is very subjective, how does she know there's less of it? That seems to be like a little bit of a contradiction. I don't know if you're seeing me on this one, but I mean it's kind of interesting, right? Like I mean, if suffering is tailored to each person, how do we know there's less of it today than there was long ago? Why are people suffering less today? So it seems like a weird way that she's measuring suffering. But going back to the question, like, I mean, who defines what suffering is? Suffering is suffering. And I mean, I have a short list here. Tell me if it sounds familiar. But thirst, hunger, homelessness, violence, political persecution, anxiety, grief, mourning, betrayal, and isolation. That seems like suffering to me. I don't know how subjective you could get with those things. I mean, they seem pretty standard and universal, really, right? And guess who talked about those very things? Jesus Christ himself. So I don't know why she feels like suffering is this wild card when she can look in her own Bible and find these things that are suffering. And maybe they're suffering, but they're ways to get to God and all this stuff. But again, you end up back at, well, why is there less of it? There's less of a way to get to God in modern times than older times? Like, I mean, you know, there's some logical sense that needs to be made here. But it is Catholicism, it is religion, so I mean, you know, maybe sense doesn't really matter, right? It's all about something else, whatever it might be. So yeah, like I mean that kind of stands out. Um, and then she makes another point. Yeah, she makes another point, and she says, even when facing events that most would agree are sources of great unhappiness, the loss of a loved one, for example, or a life-threatening illness or injury, another list of things that make people suffer. It's those things are bad for people. They're not subjective, right? Like a life-threatening injury is bad. Like it like I don't see anybody thinking that's a good thing, right? Maybe there's some instrumental cause or some instrumental this or that, but it doesn't matter. I mean, a life-threatening injury, I mean, that's bad. But she says that people heal, they adapt, and they move on. Um, well, the problem with that is human beings don't just heal and go back to original and then just move on. There's always a psychological drawback or a physical drawback. There's always something that remains of the initial injury. So, you know, like, I mean, if I could call it an injury, um, we always carry a scar with us forward, whether a metaphorical scar or a physical scar or both. We always carry something forward into the future. So we don't suffer and get off scot-free and just carry on as if nothing ever happened. You know, if we're hurt in a bad relationship or something like that, when we move on, we might lose our ability to trust people a little bit. We might become stronger, but we might also lose our ability to trust people, right? So there's always, nothing comes for free. There's always a drawback or a trade-off when you deal with life-changing events, when you deal with suffering, right? So she makes other points as well. Her third point is that antinatalism sounds more like a pathology than an ideology. Well, the thing about that is people pathologize antinatalists, but antinatalism itself doesn't cause mental illness, for one. And the second point on that is antinatalism makes logical sense. Like it doesn't matter if it's a disease or not a disease or whatever. It makes logical sense. So how could the truth be wrong, right? And then she goes on. She says that she read some interview somewhere, and basically from the interview she got that the interviewee was trying to say there is no afterlife, no God, no meaning, no real value. Well, she as a Catholic, Laura Hollis as a Catholic, should know that there is no soul before conception. So these possible people, they don't care about God or meaning or value or the afterlife. It has no use for them because they don't exist. They don't exist as a soul. They don't exist as a person. Nothing exists there. So bringing them into existence is you're creating a need where there was no need before, right? So why are you bringing them into existence to go to heaven? They have no need for heaven or anything, or to lead a good life, or they have no desire for that, right? So yeah, like, I mean, no soul, like Catholicism itself says there's no soul before conception. So yeah, there's no need for any of that. Anyway, I wrote a blog post about the article, so you could go check it out. It's on Spiralvent. It kind of breaks everything down step by step and point by point. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Bye.